Hello and welcome to The Gist. I'm your host, Chris Vetrano, here every week to break down all the things that are happening in pop culture and interviewing the people that make it pop. Last week, we dove deep into the career of pop singer Kelly Clarkson with our friends from the Miss Into podcast. If you haven't checked out that episode, do so later. But today's guest is a fitting and incredible follow up. She entered our lives when she became the third runner up of season 2 of American Idol. And since then, she's used her silky smooth vocals to deliver pop, dance, Christmas, lullabies, and R&B jams that we just can't get enough of. Her new Best Of album is out later this year, and her new single drops August 18th. I can't wait to get all the details from her. Please welcome to The Gist, the eighth world wonder herself, Kimberley Locke.
You get to write all of my intros.
Okay, perfect. Well, Kimberley, thank you so much for being here. This is such an honor. I'm such a fan.
Thank you.
Back in the Idol days, as I started, we did an episode deep diving Kelly Clarkson, and of course, couldn't talk about her without American Idol, where she got started. And one of the things that we talked about was that season 1. No one really knew what the show was. I think producers, I think everybody didn't know what to expect. And then it became this mega pop culture moment, and enter you onto the show. And what a difference that must have been. And at that point, you knew what this kind of American Idol machine was. But tell us a little bit about like how you got there, and then, what your experience on Idol was like.
So it's interesting because I think even on season 2, none of us knew what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we walked into this perfect, amazing storm of all kinds of possibilities. And so when I auditioned for American Idol, I was in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I had just graduated from college. I was actually working.
Shout out Belmont.
Yeah, went to Belmont University. I graduated, and I was working for a branch of ASCAP, doing licensing, funny enough. And I remember, I'm a very type A personality, so I've always had a plan A and a B, C, D, E if I needed it. But I had already executed my plan B, which was going to law school. And so I had spent my last year in college kind of, really prepping for that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I had been singing in Nashville for a very long time and singing in multiple bands and doing that in clubs and stuff. And that is not what I wanted to do for the long term. It was great when I was in college. It was great in Nashville because that's where I cut my chops and I learned, everything that I know, really.
Yeah.
I learned it in Nashville. And so when American Idol announced the second season and that they announced the cities, because that was a really big part of American Idol in the early years, what cities were they going to?
Right.
And so when they announced that they were coming to Nashville, my friends were calling me and saying, you have to audition. And I was like, nope, like I just got accepted into law school. Like I am not doing this audition, And what happened was I think I started to experience FOMO before FOMO was a thing, right? And I realized that I had gone to every audition under the moon. I said in an interview once, I would sing at the opening of a Cracker Jack box. It did not matter. And so this was kind of one of those culminating moments, where I was like, okay, it's one audition, go.
Mm-hmm.
And at least you say you went, and you don't have to worry about and do the what if, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but I went, and it was such a last minute decision. Oh my gosh. I tortured myself over this last final audition of my life. Right. And they were literally, Chris, when I tell you they were downtown Nashville, I lived like a mile and a half away from where the auditions were.
Okay.
And so I went, and it was crazy because the night before it was all over the news, and they were showing footage of people sleeping in tents and sleeping bags, and it was raining. And I was like, I am not
Doing
doing that.
yeah, of course, of course.
And so it was just one of those, it truly is for me now that, 20 years later, it's truly one of those connect the dots moments for me because we all come to those crossroads in our lives. And when we're standing at the crossroad, we don't really understand what
Mhm.
is happening. But hindsight is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And being able to reflect back and look back, it's painted like a beautiful, clear picture to me.
Mhm.
And I went on that audition, and the first day I got there, there were so many, there were people everywhere,
Yeah.
and there were so many people, they were passing out wristbands and telling, if you had a green wristband, you stayed. If you got a red wristband, you come back tomorrow.
Got
And
it.
so I missed like 4 days of work. I told my boss, I said, I'm going to go to this audition. I'll be right back. 4 days later, she's literally calling me like, are you coming back to work? So that's kind of, where I was. And, at that point, I had kind of reconciled myself to, I'm the kind of person that if I can't do something the way I want to do it, I don't want to do it. Like I
Mhm.
had a vision, and I also understand, putting in your time and doing the work. And I had been doing that work, and I'd had a lot of, opportunities come my way that did not pan out. A lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? False opportunities, if you will.
Mhm.
Always learning and teaching moments, right? But people promising things or presenting things that weren't really exactly what they said they
Mhm.
were going to be. And so I just kind of felt like, you know what? I'm not just a singer. I'm a lot of things. So there's only two things I ever wanted to do, and that is be a singer and a lawyer. And the local newspaper interviewed me when I was in the 5th grade, and I said that. And
Amazing.
so I spent the weeks after auditioning for American Idol and getting the golden ticket, I spent a lot of days on my mom's couch
Mhm.
reading that article, crying, because I'd already enrolled in law school and I was going to have to withdraw. And I'll
Oh.
tell you, one of the most torturous things I've ever done in my life was take the LSAT.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
I did not want to take it again.
Oh gosh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But it paid off because you end up on the show, you make it all the way through, and like we said, it was, such a wild time of Idol because I think, we were talking to I think Kelly Clarkson's album, I think actually came out during the season of, and I think
Hmm.
she came and
Yeah.
sang her first single or whatever from it, and but none of the idols had put out records yet at this
Right.
point, but still it was like in everyone's home, it was on every magazine, it was like making the news every
It
night,
was
it was wild.
everywhere. When I tell you it was everywhere, we couldn't go anywhere because
Yeah,
we were everywhere.
yeah, yeah. And this is we were one of the things we were talking about is I remember on the first season they had showed a lot of clips of like the cast living together in a house like on the off times. Did you guys also do that or did they scrap that for season 2?
They kept that for season two.
Okay.
We actually had a house in the Hollywood Hills,
Mhm.
and that was fun. That was kind of like our safe space,
Yeah.
and our place to retreat. Um, that was an interesting time for me because I had just turned at 25 in
Mhm.
January. So I was the oldest contestant, but I had also been living on my own for like 4 years. And
Right.
so to all of a sudden go from having my freedom as an adult to being chaperoned everywhere, like that was a huge adjustment for me.
Yeah, no, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
And but also imagine though there was like not a lot of downtime during that.
No.
Like you guys were just constantly doing something.
No. Somebody asked me once, when did we practice our songs? And I said, in our sleep. Like literally. I mean, the show was so popular, right?
Hmm.
I mean, we were getting up in the morning. We would have 5:30 a.m. call times, but we wouldn't get home till like 1 o'clock in the morning,
Oh, wow.
1:30, and so I try to explain it to people sometimes, but it's really hard because the thing that we were there to do, we did it the least.
Hmm.
We were there to sing, and we did that the least. But it was a great time. It was a busy time. It was I, I always call American Idol Entertainment Boot Camp 101
Yeah.
because everything you need to know about being on stage, being in front of a camera, being a celebrity, being with press and, walking a red carpet, whatever that is, you learn it in this intubated situation. It is so unique, right?
Yeah.
Um, even I would say, even the American Idol experience that the contestants are getting now is drastically different
Oh,
from
yeah.
our experience.
Yeah.
But it was a wild time for
Yeah.
everybody. People were having American Idol watch parties, and it was
I was. I
thank
was.
thank you very much. It was a wild time for television, for people. This show really brought people together
Hmm.
in this
Yeah.
weird, unusual way.
Yeah, I mean, it really was the first time that we were outside of like a political landscape, like voting for people, and like the world came together in the same kind of way that they do around politics and the
Yeah.
elections and stuff, to be like, are you a Ruben? Are you a Clay? Are you a Kim? Like
Yeah.
it was like, and the all of the hype and all of the like commercials and the campaigns, it just felt
Yeah, it
like
was.
there was so much. And
Yeah.
you really, at the time, you really started to like feel like you were part of that person's journey. And so as a
Mhm.
viewer for you, like, I felt like I was part of your journey with you. And,
Right.
so it was like so exciting as a fan when you released the first record and when you had like your own music, because you really are like, wow, I watched this whole process happen.
You were
And
involved.
yeah, it's like you feel
Yeah.
a bit responsible for some of that.
Yes. Yes.
And it's so wonderful. And you were mentioning how today it's so different, and it's so true. One of my best friends came from one of the shows, and we were talking even about like Kelly Clarkson being a mentor now on The Voice and stuff. And it's like, it's really just about the mentors and the judges, like being the personalities and getting the
Mhm.
TV ratings. And, I know Kelly Clarkson was like on a show, and the host said like, can you name one of the most recent Idol winners in the last 5 years? And she stumbled. She wasn't able to. And,
Right.
and that's not because like Kelly's above it or any of that stuff. It's like
No.
because they're just churning out the seasons less
Yeah.
than churning out like stars, which is what
Talent.
they were trying to do with you at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think what American Idol did was show how much talent is out there. You
Yeah.
know, forget about the forget about the 36 people or the 24 people who made it onto television. There are thousands and thousands of people out there who are uniquely talented,
Yeah.
right? And that's, the whole industry has changed since
Hmm.
then. If you
Hmm.
think about it, I look at my career and I had an album, a maxi single,
Hmm.
I had singles, actual physical singles. Clay
Hmm.
Rubin and I, Kelly, we all
Hmm.
had albums and physical singles out there,
Right.
and the landscape has changed so much. I mean, we were still doing radio tours
Hmm.
and radio shows, and those things are fewer and lesser these days. But you definitely, I don't even know if people even go to radio stations anymore
Yeah.
for interviews, and it's just so different. We were in this very interesting time of the industry, but also not just the industry. It was television, radio, the digital like everything was right there in this culminating moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also sort of changed, as you mentioned, physical albums and physical singles and stuff. It also started changing music to more of the streaming platforms, and then
Right.
they, shows like The Voice and Idol and stuff, they started incorporating sales into the voting structures, and that
Right.
like catapulted people to another level. And and it's so different now. I am curious because obviously, at some point you're just sort of sailing through, because you now are heading to the top three. And I have to imagine that behind the scenes, because as we said, there's still, they still want all of these people to go on and be successful, whether you win or not. At that point, I felt like everyone was sort of, Justin Guarini had gotten a deal. I think
Mm-hmm.
Tamira Gray and Nikki both got
Yeah.
deals. And so at that point, it was like they really were putting that forward. Was there a point in which you had started having those conversations about record deals and you ended up landing at Curb? But was that pre even you being off the show on Idol, or was that happening
Mm,
afterwards?
no, and I have to tell you, so season one, they signed the top five.
Yeah.
Season two, they only signed the top two.
Oh,
So, but they had first right of refusal on the
right.
top three, I think, or five, whatever. I don't remember that number specifically, but I know that I was kind of in this limbo place with them. And so, um, during the top three, when the top three occurred, when that announcement came down, we all went and met with the Clive Davis in a bungalow
Amazing.
at the
Amazing.
Beverly Hills Hotel. And I just remember, I hope I can hang on to this memory for the rest of my life, although I know, it's already kind of fading, but I do remember walking in. He was sitting in a wingback chair. It was like walking into The Godfather, right? And so um he presented me with the finale song, and he was like, this is the song that you will sing. You and Ruben are going to both record this song. So Ruben and I both recorded, I think the song was it Flying Without Wings,
Hmm. Yep.
right?
Yep.
So we both recorded that song, and you know, and then basically it's all about the vote, right? What happened. So it's one of those moments where that moment for me really felt surreal.
Hmm.
I'm a huge Whitney Houston fan, so sitting in the room with Clive Davis was just like one of those moments like, this is not even possible. It's
Yeah.
not even happening, right?
Yeah.
Um, but during that time, I think all I ever wanted, and I hate to say this, but I never said, I want to win American Idol. I said, I want to be in the top three.
Mm.
That's it. It was me, Clay, and Ruben. We had a
Yeah.
very special bond during that
Yeah.
time. And I was like, you know what? I just want to be in the top three with these guys, like that. I'm in great company. If either of us win, we worked for it. And I don't mind coming in second to either one of these guys. Right. And so that's kind of how I felt about it. And I thought about that afterwards. I was like, oh, I wonder if if I wanted to be it, come in first, right? Power of
Hmm.
manifestation, right? Did I manifest that top three? Probably. Um, but it's one of those moments where when it's over,
Hmm.
right? And so we went on tour. So after I met with Clive Davis, the vote came down the next week. It was Clay and Ruben. I didn't go home. That's the only difference with the third place person. You don't really go home because you got to be there next week for the finale, right?
Hmm.
So I stayed, and then we go on that tour. We went on that tour. We had a very intense tour. And so during the tour, I was constantly calling Fremantle saying, are you going to sign me or are you going to let me go? Because I
Hmm.
couldn't do anything.
Right. Got
And
it.
my goal was to have a record deal by the time the tour ended so I could go straight from the tour into the studio.
Yeah.
And I met so many people, so many wonderful people on American Idol that I pulled out all their cards. I had all these business cards that I saved. And I just started taking calls and meetings with people. And one of my really dear friends from Billboard, Fred Bronson, he and another person kind of really helped me make that connection with Curb Records. And then during the last leg of American Idol, Mike Curb and his wife came to Memphis to meet me and offer me a contract. And
Amazing.
so it was, again, if we're talking about manifestation, I got exactly what I wanted.
Hmm.
And it was really funny for me getting signed by Curb Records after being in Nashville. And,
Yeah.
I couldn't even get in the talent show at Belmont University. So it was like, I was like, this is so bizarre.
Yeah. Well, and it was right down the street
It's
from
right there.
ASCAP and
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I was
Right.
in the mix,
Yeah.
I was in the mix. I had to go all the way to California just to get signed by Curb Records. So, but
Yeah.
whatever. It was great.
Yeah. And then did you cut the record in Nashville?
um okay, so the first record, yes, I
Okay.
did. Yes, I was trying to think. The first album, One Love, I recorded a lot of it on church on Music Row.
Yep.
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't write any of the songs on the first album because I was like, I don't even know if I can do that, right? Like, there are lots of really amazing songwriters out there. Let's utilize their talents and their gifts. And
Yep.
so I sung a lot of songs. I mean, I don't know how many are in the vault that are unreleased, but there are a lot of unreleased songs because I think I demoed like 100 songs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then you guys, found magic with the Eighth World Wonder.
Yeah, so Eighth World Wonder was already recorded. It was kind of a weird, bizarre thing. This young girl, I cannot remember her name, but she had already recorded Eighth World Wonder
Okay.
and was slated to release it. And so we had to go through this whole process of pulling it off of her record. It
Oh,
was
no.
kind of icky, It
Hey,
was
it happens
not,
all the time.
it happens, right? But it
Yeah.
was just like, I was like, wow, like she must feel like not great, about this. And so I recorded that song in Nashville with Sean Schenkel and Josh.
Hmm.
He married Kelly Pickler.
Hmm.
Josh, I think his name was Josh.
Yeah.
And he passed away
Yes,
earlier this year. Yeah,
he
so
did. Yeah.
that was sad. I had a lot of good times with him. He had a flying squirrel that I used to play with.
Oh my gosh. How
It was
amazing.
so funny. And so that song really kind of changed all of our lives,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that song had a life of its own before I even came along, and that's kind of what I learned about songs. On my second album, I recorded an Alan Rich song that had a life of its own. The song had been around for like 20, 25 years, and
Oh,
everybody had recorded it, and it never made it onto anybody's album.
that's
And I
so
think it made it
interesting.
onto mine. Yeah. So some of these songs, like artists, we have our own path. Some of
Hmm.
these songs have their own path, and it's very interesting, when you start to learn the history of a piece of music.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it just needs the right artist or,
That's it.
whatever. And
That's it.
you gotta put it together. And,
Yeah.
I know sometimes too, they, we'll put an artist on it and kind of put it out and put some feelers out on radio and stuff and see how people are responding to it.
Respond.
And then they might bring a different artist in
Right.
and actually that they think can like catapult it to the next.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
were able to do that for Eighth World. And I'm assuming that that now it has like had a resurgence because it was nominated for Record of the Year at the Las Culturistas Awards
My team
earlier
and
this year.
I, my team and I, we were like, what is this? Like, what is happening? And I was like, I don't know what that is, but that was really cool.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it was so funny when we so I had followed them and saw that they nominated that and I was like, well, that's perfect because like it needs to get its dues and it needs to
Thank
be
you.
one, it's still on all of the playlists that I have usually after a little too much drinking and we're all standing around singing in the kitchen. It's like, we
Yeah.
start going to the classics and Eighth World Wonder is
Hmm.
always one of them that we,
Thank you.
start belting out. And that album was so good too. You had so many songs that, I thought you could have gone deeper with singles on that album.
Hmm.
Because there's like just so many good ones.
Yeah.
Could have been. I was surprised that your song with Clay didn't you guys didn't put that out, but I'm sure that there was politics with Clay's album and
Yeah, I'm just going to say it because it's true. There were so many politics. I can't
yeah.
even like I can't even begin to tell you the politics.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was very disheartening for me as an artist and as a young artist, right? Naive artist who's just thinking about the art and singing and doing what I love to do and living my dream. A lot of stuff got shut down because of
Mm.
politics.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And it happens to every artist. It is
Oh
not
yeah.
unique to anyone. Every artist experiences that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the industry,
Yeah.
unfortunately. The and the second single, Wrong, was that like something that you were really excited about bringing out, or was that a decision by the label?
I was excited about that. I think it was a label decision, but I was in full support of that. That song, when it comes to music, I am a bit of a chameleon, right?
Hmm.
I just want to sing good songs, and I just want to sing not just good songs, but songs that I can deliver,
Hmm.
right? If I can deliver it, I don't care what genre it's in,
Right.
right? And Wrong was one of those songs. It was out there for me in that Tina Turner space
Mm-hmm.
where I really got to just be raw
Hmm.
and be me, right? The lyrics, I love the lyrics of the song, the context of the song. I'm a big lyrics person, so that's
Hmm.
how I chose a lot of the songs that were on the album.
Right.
Lyrics are important to me, but I was really happy that because when people say the name Kimberly Locke, they don't really think edgy, right?
Right.
Like I'm not some out there on the edge,
Right.
doing some edgy stuff, so I was really happy that they went with that song.
Right.
I feel like that was edgy for Curb to
Yeah.
pick that song. But the guy that I worked with, which I can't remember his name, he was super cool. And we really enjoyed recording that song. And then I loved the video. I was
Hmm.
in London and they sprung like 3 videos on me. Of the 3, this was the only one that I really liked. Because we were there and I don't know, it was my first time in London and everything was just very 80s, could have
Mm.
been was filmed in London and it's very like when you look at that video you're like wow, right? But whatever, I was young and it was fun and we did it and it was okay, right? But Wrong was one of those like I felt like that could have that could have been a path for me actually, that rock. Like I do love
Yeah.
that part of my voice. And so I was happy about that choice. And
Yeah.
I still like that song.
Yeah, I always loved it. I felt like it was kind of its own standalone on the record and that sort of
Mhm.
space or that sort of sound and genre.
Yeah.
And so it was like I was curious, like, is that who you are, or is that maybe where you're gonna go next? And then I think like with based on a true story, you had more sort of R&B and you kind of went more of
Yeah.
that direction. And so I was like, I wonder if the Wrong thing was just sort of one that they threw on because it had likeness to like Miss Independent and
Yes.
so, people obviously compared the two and they were like, oh, is Kimberly just kind of going to do the Kelly Clarkson thing? And is that an
Right.
idol thing? So I was curious if like the label was like, that song's got to be on there. But if you were like, it wasn't
Yeah.
really me because you kind of went down more
No,
of this
that was
R&B.
Wrong was always a part of the collective of
Mhm.
music. It was not one of those things. I had a lot of fun recording that song in the studio.
Yeah.
And it was different. The thing about recording in Nashville is that Nashville has a sound, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that was one of the things that the label was trying to not combat, but kind of overcome a little
Right.
bit. But even Wrong still has a Nashville sound to it, you know. But it was always a solid runner. It was not, you know, because sometimes things do get added on, as you know, like,
Yeah.
hey, we need to throw this in there,
Right.
and like, okay, doesn't really fit, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's like
So yeah,
the one that they're like, oh, we, have a promise out that you're going
exactly.
to do this song or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
And then the second record with Curb, you had Superwoman, which was like a female empowerment, and then Change, which was one again. I mean, Eighth World Wonder is my favorite,
Yeah.
obviously, but Change, the way you sing in Change is just like mind
Yeah.
blowing. So,
Change is me, right? Change is authentically who I am as a singer.
mhm,
And what I love about Change is that Change has those elements of Wrong and Eighth World Wonder in it. You know,
mhm,
it's this hybrid mix of me, right?
mhm,
I wrote that song. It was one of the first songs that I wrote on the album, and I wrote it with Ty Lacey and Dan, his writing partner Dan, and um still to this day, Change is one of my favorite songs to sing live.
yeah,
And that song has so much meaning to it. That album, based on a true story, the growth for me as an artist between One Love and Based on a True Story is like tremendous. It's almost like it's two different artists, you know? Um,
And how long in between was the first record?
so that's a good question. Eighth World Wonder was released in 2003.
Hmm.
I think, and or 2004. And Based on a True Story came out, I might have this wrong. No, it had to come out in 2007.
Okay.
So 4 years, 3 or 4 years
And were you
time.
working One Love throughout that whole time, or did you take a break to sort of regroup for this
I
record?
took a break, and it took me a year and a half to write Based on a True Story. And so, that's the other part of, being an artist. Like, there are seasons, right? You have your writing season, right?
Hmm.
And then you've got your studio recording season, and then you've got your promotion season, right? And then after your promotion, then you've got your tour or shows, whatever you're doing, your live aspect. And so all of those seasons are also very different, because you
Hmm.
go from you sequester yourself, you remove yourself from the public eye while you're working on your next project,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you come out and you're this different new person,
Yeah.
and life, and by the way, life is still happening,
Yeah.
based on a true story. I was engaged, and it was not going great. I was not happy. My manager called me one day, and he was like, "Girl, can you put one happy song on this album?" And I said, "No, I cannot, because I'm not happy right now. Like, I can't, you want me to write a happy song while I'm not happy? Like, that doesn't even make any sense, right?"
Yeah.
And so on that album, they threw a song on the album and made me sing it.
And
And
that
I was
was
like, I literally fought them. I was like, I'm like, listen to this song. It sounds nothing like you can tell that you are injecting this into the playlist, right? And I was so mad about it. And I was like, I did it. I had to do it. I didn't have a choice, unfortunately, but I did it.
mhm.
And it sucked. But I still don't like the song to this day.
Well, I am trying now. I'm like trying to think, but I won't make you say what it is. I'll have to go
I'll tell
listen.
you, I don't care. I'll even do you one better. What's the hook is, any which way but without
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you.
Without You.
It's called Any Which Way. It was from a movie, The Best Man, Heather
Oh,
Locklear. It was the ending. What do you call it? It was a
or
song
The
at the end
Perfect Man.
credits. The Perfect Man. Thank
That's
you.
right.
The
That's
Perfect
right.
Man.
Okay.
The Perfect Man. That should have gone on One Love with Eighth World Wonder,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
on Based on a True Story.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then on that record too, you like became the remix queen and started dominating the dance charts with all the songs.
Can I just tell you, I was just going to say, I have no idea how that happened. So what I learned was the A&R guy at Curb. He was uh, he was the responsible for all of that. So basically, from the first album, I went into his office one day. He was like, "Stop by, we'll go have lunch, blah blah blah." And he pulled out this maxi, what he called a maxi single, and I was like, "I don't even know what that is." And I looked at it, and I was like, "It's all Eighth World Wonder." And he
Hmm.
was like, he's like, "Yeah, it's 15 different dance tracks to Eighth World Wonder." I was like, "Who is buying this?" Right? And he was like, "Oh, they're gonna love it." And that's what my entree into the dance world was,
Hmm.
because from the first album we did Eighth World Wonder. um was Band of Gold on the first album or the second? I think it was
The
on the
second.
second album, right?
Yeah.
So Eighth World Wonder was really big on the dance charts. And
Hmm.
so when the second album came, we did Change, Fall, Band of Gold, you know, everything got remixed.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of number one dance hits.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dance World. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And
Thank
how
you.
did that sort of impact, if at all, your live show at that time? Like,
Oh my
did
gosh.
you feel like you needed to do more of a dancey version, or did you stick with the
Um,
originals?
Funny enough, I didn't have a choice, because what was happening is I started getting booked for every gay pride across the country. And I was
Of course.
like, I don't need a band to do these songs, So I would sing the track, and it was great, and it
Yeah.
worked, and they loved it. They ate it up.
Hmm.
And listen, I mean, that was a wild, wild phenomenon to me.
Yeah.
That was wild, but I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
every minute of it.
Yeah. You were just like you and Kylie Minogue up
I
there. Like,
know, right? I know. When I realized like how big Kylie Minogue was, and that I was like on that level at that moment, like they wanted Kylie Minogue and Kimberley Locke. And I was like, what? I was
hmm.
like, little old me.
I know. I love it. I love
It
it.
was great. It was really, really great.
Yeah. And so now you're getting ready to release later. It's in October. You're
Yeah.
releasing Best of Kimberly
Hmm.
Locke.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us? I heard that there might be some surprises, like maybe some songs from the vault. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about what we can expect from this Best of album.
Well, first of all, the single that's going to be dropping this week, if you pre save the album, you automatically get this single on Friday. You don't have to
Yep.
wait till October. So, this song was written by Andreas Moss, and it's actually a duet, which I really enjoyed recording. I recorded it with Dave Auday. And Andreas wasn't there, but Dave was there. We met in New York at a studio, and um, that was my first time meeting Dave, even though he had remixed Band of Gold and it
Yeah.
was a number one. His
Yeah.
version was number one on the dance chart. So it was really nice to be in the room with Dave and working with him. And it was just great to be back in the studio, recording something different and something new.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be fun to hear and see how people react to this particular song.
Yeah. And that's
Now,
Keep on Falling in Love is the name of it.
Keep on Falling in Love, that is the track.
Yeah.
Yeah, the title of the track. And so the other piece of this is that there are songs that have been in the vault that people know exist, um, that are going to be on this album, but they've never
Amazing.
they know they exist, but they've never been released. And people have been writing to me for years, and I'm like, out of my hands, like I'm zero control. I cannot help you, right? And so that's going to be interesting to watch those songs, be reacted to.
Yeah.
I mean, because those songs are 20 years old, so are they are they going to sound relevant? No, they're not. But it's one of those things that they've been in the vault,
Yeah.
and um I look forward to getting people's take. There's also Dave All Day did another remix on a song that's going to be good. I think
Amazing.
people are going to, I'm not even going to tell you what that one is, but that's going to be, I'm excited about that one as well. So it's like a couple of new things, and then these things that have just been in the vault, man. Like,
Amazing.
yeah, I
And
mean,
did you re-record these ones from the vault, or are these the originals?
they're the originals.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, getting a phone call from the label saying we're going to do a greatest hits on you is kind of, you know, mind boggling a little bit, because you're like, the first thing I said was like, how many hits do I have? You know, the best of. I'm like, do I have enough best of? And I do. I realized when he sent the track list over, I was like, oh, yeah, these are all the songs that people love. These are the best ofs, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
is this with Curb?
Yeah, it's with Curb.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
It's
Awesome.
with Curb. Yep.
Well, that's exciting.
It's very exciting. It was completely unexpected. As you know, in the industry, it's like, you know, there's crickets, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're doing this thing. Let's do it tomorrow. You know, that's kind of how it was. And I was, you know, pleasantly surprised. I think that I had sent over my new Christmas album that I released last year,
Yep.
Christmas is Here. I had sent the music over to Brian, and he called me immediately and said, hey, I've been going through your vault and listening to your music. That's how he talks. So I love mimicking him.
Yep.
And so we had this conversation. And I was like, great. And so I went into the studio shortly after that, but I recorded this song 2 years ago.
Oh my
So
gosh,
it's
amazing.
like we're doing it now, and then crickets,
Yeah.
and it
No.
was like we're ready to go. 2 years later, you know, it's
Yeah.
wild. You
Yeah.
just got to go with the flow.
It's been a weird 2 years, to be fair, and I think
To be fair, yes,
everybody's been
yes.
trying to figure out how to like get back
This
to
is
some
true.
normalcy
This
and
is
what the new
true
normal is.
because I went into the studio right after the pandemic, like
Mm,
right after, like literally, you know, we were still having to wear masks inside and
right.
all of that. So it was like, it was a weird time, but we did it.
And are you still spending your time in Nashville, or I know right now you're on the West Coast, but
Hmm.
is Nashville still home to
No,
you in some way?
not really. I haven't been to Nashville. Nashville hasn't been home for a while. I've been in Connecticut for like the last 12, 13 years, maybe
Hmm.
14 years. So that has been home
Okay.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I have friends and family there.
if you haven't been to Nashville lately, it's very different than
Oh
your
my gosh, it's
ASCAP
so
days.
different. Oh my gosh. Can I tell you, one of my first trips back home several years ago, after not being there for a while, I literally was driving around and I was like, I don't even know where I am.
Yeah.
I don't know where anything is. I don't know when this happened, but this is like, I don't know Nashville anymore, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, you knew it in the good days.
Yeah.
There is no Music Row anymore, which is so sad. And, now
Wow.
downtown is all the, big name, the Blake Shelton bars and the Alan Jacksons and
Wow.
these 3-story bars that like the
Oh
honky
my
tonks are
gosh.
gone that people,
Right. That
so
we love
many,
so much.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
now it's like you go to like Robert's Western World or something because it's the only one that like still has kind of that old vibe of what old Nashville used to be.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm just down the street in East Nashville.
Okay, so I was gonna say, are you in Nashville? So you
Yeah.
are. When I was at Belmont, I bought a condo right behind Zany's. That's where I
Oh,
lived. Yeah, that was my
um,
hood.
yeah, like 8th Avenue ish,
Yeah.
12
Yep.
South ish. Yeah.
Yep. It's right over there.
Probably also very different since you're
Very different.
here.
Oh my gosh, very different. There was a beautiful church at the end of the street, and they have completely torn that church down and put like condos there.
Oh, I'm shocked. I mean, there
Yeah.
are a lot of the old churches like are now hip
Yeah.
restaurants or like other things, but I'm
Yeah.
surprised that they tore it down for condos. But we're getting
Yeah.
a lot of condos here.
A lot of condos. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and then I know you founded your own entertainment company, I Am
Yeah.
Entertainment, which you started by saying that you wanted to do two things when you were a kid: be a lawyer or be a singer. And I wonder, is I Am Entertainment sort of feeding this other side and this other passion for you to be so ingrained in the business side of things?
It's so funny, right? That's a really great question. I started I Am Entertainment in 2011, and its original intention was just to house everything Kimberley Locke.
Mhm.
And what happened, I put out a project around that time, Four for the Floor, which was an EP,
Mhm.
dance EP. And I got interviewed by Billboard Magazine, and we talked about I Am Entertainment, being independent. And then other artists started reaching out to me. And our tagline is a company for artists by artists, right?
Mhm.
And so I wanted to help artists really kind of take ownership of what they're doing so that they don't have to deal with the politics that they know
Mhm.
nothing about, really. The
Yeah.
politics are rarely about the artist. It's about what the label needs you to do or people need you to do that are working the music. And so, and then, the industry was changing, right? Or the industry has changed, right? So, as we have seen over and over and over again with YouTube and social media, you can really foster and hone your own craft and your own following and do your own thing, right? So that
Yep.
if a label does come to you, you're in such a beautiful position to kind of leverage everything that you have to get what you need and what you
Mhm.
want.
Yep.
And so I started consulting with other artists on their projects and just helping point them in the right direction, right? Because I find that as an artist very valuable. And so over the years, it's just kind of evolved into, these various things that kind of reveal themselves to us that there's a need for, right? And so during the pandemic, um, I started doing social media marketing.
Mhm.
And so now I have a small team that work for and with me, and we manage a lot of social media accounts, nonprofits, artists, entrepreneurs. Because what I realize is that entrepreneurs are artists.
Yep. Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
know I don't want to cheat my entrepreneurship out of the creativity, and so yes, I Am Entertainment is feeding me in so many ways. What we do is storytelling. No matter what aspect of the project we're working on, it is storytelling, and I love it. I
Mhm.
really truly love it. And my team, we have so much fun telling our clients stories, and what we love the most is when we tell the story and the client is like, wow, I didn't realize that that was our story. I'm like, yeah, your story is amazing, right? Like, and so when you get to do that and be a part of someone else's success, that's really like, I love that. And
Yeah.
I still, I'm still creative, and the artists that we work with, I'm their music, and they're in the music industry, and so it's still like, it's this full circle moment for me. So
Yeah.
I really love what I'm doing. The totality of what I'm doing right now, I really love it all.
Yeah. And I have to imagine that you were probably doing a little bit of that even back like in Idol,
Oh my
because
gosh, yes.
you came from Nashville, you, as you said, worked at ASCAP, you went to Belmont. So even if you were, I mean, just being in that sort of circle and on
Yeah.
Music Row, there was like a feeling back then that like you understood music and
Yes.
understood aspects of the industry that probably a lot of those contestants had never even like thought of or knew to
Right.
think of.
Yeah.
So I imagine that that started, back then and then has evolved into now sort of this
Yeah,
whole
and I was very
business.
grateful, like one of the things I tell people all the time, it's like, it's not just about what you want to do or what you are doing, right? Everything that I did leading up to American Idol prepared me, whether it was, singing at the Bourbon Street Boogie Bar or
Mhm.
BB King's or Mayor Bull. When Mayor Bull was down there, they had a beautiful cabaret room,
Mhm.
and I sung in that room. I learned so much with the guys. I sung in a band with a group of TSU professors. They were
Wow.
all music professors, and these guys, not only were were they talented, but they were so much fun to be on stage with, and they were old school, right? So I learned so much from being with them and around them and working with them. And so what I realized after American Idol was that everything that I had done up to that point got me to where I was. And when I got to American Idol, I was so prepared. Like
Mhm.
I was I was so prepared, I was shocked. But I realized that everything I'd done up until then was in preparation for that moment, right? And
Yeah.
so that's what I say to people, don't discount where you are and what you're doing, because it's not about it's not even about where you're trying to go, right? It's about where you are now, collecting those tools so that when you get there, you're prepared,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's amazing. Well,
yeah.
so Best of comes out, remind me, October
October 13th.
13th.
Yes. And then the single, Keep on Falling in Love. If you when you pre-save the album, which that link, I don't know if you have that link, but we can get you that link, and it's on my Instagram. So
Yep.
we have it there. Once you pre-save the album, you're going to get the single this Friday. And I
Awesome.
cannot wait to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, I'm very
I
excited.
want a message directly from you.
I will definitely message you and let you know what I think, because I have been a fan, and was voting back in the day, and
Yeah.
here we are today.
Here we are.
You said 20 years, which is like crazy to
Mm.
me, because
Isn't
as I
it?
as I said, I still like listen to Eighth World Wonder like as if it was like a Today song that just came out last
Right.
week. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's amazing. It was so great to have you here. Where can people continue to follow you and then stay up to date on what's next?
Yes. So I am all over the gram, the Instagram, and I am uploading music, live singing to YouTube all the time. As a matter of fact, we just uploaded one of my favorites today, so check it out.
Yep.
It's from the Disney Mania project that I did back in 2007, and
Hmm.
it's one of my all-time favorite songs. So we're consistently uploading videos to YouTube, and I'm so proud of myself. I'm on TikTok and I'm doing it. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, but I'm there. I'm going live on TikTok as well. And I'm doing some cooking and stuff on TikTok, because TikTok is kind of that platform that you can kind of do
Different.
whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think, you can connect with me on any of those platforms. I am there responding, and listening. So yeah, I would love to see people come over and find me and tell me what you think.
Yeah, well, we definitely will. But thank you again for doing this today. This was so fun to just chat with you and
Yeah.
kind of walk down memory lane, and or down music row as it might be. And yeah, it was such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
You've got such a good energy, and
Oh,
you
thanks,
always
Chris.
did. And it's great to see that you're still the same girl
Thank
that we all
you.
met on Idol 20 years ago.
Hey, that's all I know how to be.
I love it.
Thank you
Um,
so much. I appreciate this.
yeah, thank you. And for all of you listening, don't forget to rate and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of The Gist. You can follow me at CM Vetrano. I'm on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, TikTok, all of the things. But until next week, make sure that you check out Kimberly's new single, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.